Hey everybody, and welcome to the live show. I'm glad you're with me this Sunday. Sorry about last Sunday. It was a long weekend with it being Easter. Took a break last week, but we're back at it. And because of being off for a couple of weeks, we have a lot of pictures to get to in just a second. We're also going to talk about the new EV rebate that was just announced last week in Canada. It kicks in tomorrow. If you're shopping for an electric vehicle, we'll go through that. Also, what's coming up this week? We have the Sportage video that just dropped yesterday. A lot of people have watched that and are liking it. So we're going to take the Sportage and put it up against the RAV4. So this is the best-selling compact crossover, and the Sportage is the newest. We'll compare them. That's coming out on Tuesday. On Wednesday, it's the Honda Accord Hybrid. Really enjoyed driving that. And next Saturday, it's going to be the BMW i4, the full electric car, with the not as ugly grille as the iX, but anyway, we'll get into all of that next Saturday. Don't forget to follow along. It's canadadrives.ca, canadadrives.ca. If you're looking for a used car, you can do the shopping process entirely online. You can fill out your credit application, you can get approved, you can purchase the car online, and then they deliver it to you in a covered trailer. And then carcostcanada.com is where you find information for brand new cars. So Car Cost Canada is exactly what it sounds like. You find out the cost of the car in Canada, basically what the dealer paid for the car. So you get the list invoice price, and then that helps you go in and negotiate the best deal, plus any incentives, rebates, anything that's sort of hidden. It's all there at carcostcanada.com. You sign up using the promo code MOTORMOUTH to get that done. Okay, so we're going to talk about the EV rebates in just a second and your questions. We have a video question as well from our pal Alex, who lives in Israel. So that's coming up in a second. So let's get into our pictures. The first one comes from Carter. Carter sent in a picture of his Forester. This is a 2016 Forester. He's trying to make it look a little bit like the Wilderness trim. He's got his special wheels and his trailer hitch on that. That's a nice job. The next one is from Andrea O. here in Vancouver. Sent in a picture of her 2022 Lexus IS300 F Sport in red, looking very smart. Looks like you have another Lexus in behind that, an RX, so well done. Our next picture is of the Ford Focus Electric. This is from Jay. Yeah, you probably forgot all about this car, right? Yeah, the Ford Focus Electric. Here's our next one. Lots to go through, as I mentioned. Abdullah sent this one in. This is a car I haven't driven yet. The Acura Tlx Type S. We've driven the regular TLX, but they don't have one here for us to drive yet. But anyway, that's a nice car. 355 horsepower. Must be a lot of fun to drive. Our next picture goes to, this is one I missed last week. So Dennis, I apologize, but we made it right and got it on this week. It's a 2022 XSE Hybrid, but that, my friends, is the rare spotted owl. That is the Prime, the plug-in version. So well done, Dennis, for getting that. And it looks good with the silver and the black. All right, our next one goes to, this is from, I hope I say the name right, Mazahri. Traded in his 2018 Honda Civic for a 2022 Honda Civic Touring. He says he likes the fact that it looks kind of a little Audi-esque. I kind of agree with that. Our next picture goes to Kevin, who says, good old reliable, a 2013 Honda Civic with 16-inch wheels. That'll go forever. The next one, oh, there's three here from Scott. Scott sent in three pictures. He was out at a Coffee and Cars and saw a collection of Porsches there. And there's a GT3 RS, the blue one with a roll cage in it. So that's pretty cool. Then he sent in another picture. This is an EV6 that he spotted in the parking lot. And then the next one is pretty cool. A friend of his is looking after this toy. Not bad, right? That's a brand new Corvette. Looks really good in red. A few more to go here. The next one comes from Howie. Sent in a picture of his, this is the last one I think, yeah, is GV70. So that looks good with the wheel. Looks like a GV70 2.5 from what I can see there. Nice find, friend. Okay, so Those are all the pictures. We missed some the last time around, and we've had 2 weeks of pictures to come in. So if you want to get a picture in, you can get a picture in. It's Zack@motormouth.ca, ZACK@motormouth.ca, or ZACK@motormouth.ca if you're from the US. All right, we do have a video question. It'll kick off our questions, and the first one comes from Alex from Israel, and here it is.
Good evening, Zach. Welcome to this beautiful Port Beach city I live in. It's like a summer now, 35 degrees whole week. And my question for today is, you mentioned in your videos cargo space in cubic feet and the torque in a pound of feet of torque. Me, as lots of European viewers, don't understand these numbers. I'm glad if you put some mention in Newton meters and the liters for cargo space. Thank you very much.
So there you go. Thanks, Alex, for sending in a video. He's really the only one that does that. If you want to send a video question, you're more than welcome to Zack@motormouth.ca. So Alex makes a good point about the Imperial measurements for torque and for volume inside the car. So we live in Canada, and we have this strange combination of metric and Imperial. So we have metric for fuel, for distance, for weight, and most measurements. However, we still use pound-feet of torque for engines, which is the Imperial way of measuring torque. To your point, throughout Europe and much of the world, it's Newton meters, so point well taken. And then for the actual volume inside the car, we have decided to go with feet because a large percentage of our audience is in the United States. So even though we're in Canada and we're a metric country for the most part, the actual population of Canada is tiny compared to the largest English-speaking country in the world, the United States. So we have a real good mix on this channel of people from the US and from Canada. But to make it simpler for our American friends, we go with cubic feet for the interior volume. But your point is well taken. And what I'll do from now on in the editing process is I'll put up a graphic with Newton meters when we talk about torque, and I'll put up a graphic with liters, okay, for interior volume. So there you go. All right. All right. Oh, by the way, if you just have to get a question in for the live show and grab my attention, a super chat's the way to do it, just so I can see it pop up. All right. Let's get into the questions now. Oh, I mentioned before we do that, the electric car rebate. So starting tomorrow, the electric car rebate has changed quite significantly. It's gone from vehicles had to start under $45,000. Now the threshold for cars is under $55,000, and the most expensive vehicle that qualifies is under $65,000. Okay? $65,000, but it will be including, and this is the one nice thing that I think they did, including options. So the way it worked now is they played this game where they would put a vehicle at a certain price point, and then they would have like a $10,000 package, optional package you could add on. So that's the way they qualified in the past. So now it has to be inclusive of all of the options. So it has to basically start under $55,000, and the most expensive car that will qualify, including options, is $65,000. That's for cars. But now that isn't what we have for SUVs. So SUVs, trucks, and vans have to start under $60,000. So the threshold has changed incredibly for vehicles. So that includes a lot more luxury products. And now inclusive of all options will be $70,000. So why has this changed? Well, there's been a lot of pressure on the government, especially from the domestic manufacturers who are investing in truck production here in Canada. So General Motors has announced they're going to have electric vehicle production for pickup trucks at Oshawa Assembly. Stellantis, FCA Chrysler, has just announced a huge investment in battery production for pickup truck batteries down in southwestern Ontario. So that's a big one. Ford has announced they're going to retool the Oakville assembly to produce electric vehicles. They haven't announced what electric vehicles they'll be. There's speculation it's going to be an SUV, and it could be pickup trucks. So the domestic manufacturers are putting pressure on the government to say, if we're spending all of this money to make these electric vehicles, there better be incentives in place for people to buy them. I totally disagree with having a $5,000 rebate on a $70,000 pickup truck. To me, that just seems crazy, but that's me. And it doesn't seem, well, it doesn't get votes, that's for sure. And the lobbyists are hard on the government to keep this up. All right. That's what's going on with that. Let me know what you guys think of that. All right, let's get into the first question here. Hi, Zach and Andrea. Ford out of the Canada brands is getting very exciting with the 2022 Ford Expedition Platinum line of vehicles they are coming out with. Really love which was unveiled. Okay, I'm not sure what you're saying there, but I'm guessing that you like the Ford Expedition Platinum. Good for you. Michael's here saying hello. AP is here. Is the so-called break-in period still true for modern cars? Will be taking delivery of a 2022 X5 soon and wondering if I should be carefully driving it for the first 500 miles or so. Thanks. Yeah, I would suggest that your break-in period. I remember we bought an Audi A7. And it had a very specific break-in period of, I think it was 1,000 kilometers, where they didn't want you to rev it over a certain RPM. It's not a bad idea to do a break-in period. Check the owner's manual, but the number one trick with a vehicle that's brand new is to not race the engine, especially when it's cold. So start the car and drive very smoothly at low to moderate RPMs. And then once the car heats up, you can see the oil temperature go up. Then you can add a little bit more revs, but don't take it all the way to redline. I wouldn't anyway, until the vehicle has, as you mentioned, about 500 miles or close to 1,000 kilometers on it. So it's just something you can do. And the other one is to not drive the vehicle at a consistent speed for long distances. So you don't want to be at like 3,000 RPM or 2,500 RPM and driving it for 100 miles or, a couple hundred kilometers. You want to vary your speed. You want to vary your RPM. And then for those, if you're going on a longer trip, it might be a good idea to not go on the freeway, to go on secondary roads. Now, you don't have to do that if you're just leasing the car for 3 years and you're going to give it back, and what do you care? You could just drive it like you stole it. But, if you're going to keep the car for a long period of time and you want to break it in, that's probably not a bad way to go. Bruce Maddow, I never realized how loud the road noise is in my 2016 RAV4 Hybrid until I got a Telluride. Does Toyota cheap out on things like insulation? Well, Bruce, we joke about this all the time, every time we drive a RAV4, about how noisy it is. And yeah, Toyota does not seem to put a priority on insulation in that product specifically. I would say other models that they have, like the Highlander, are quieter, but the RAV4 is noticeably loud. And yeah, you would get in a bigger, more substantial vehicle like a Telluride, and you certainly would notice it. But we're always talking about it. We had the RAV4 video go out last week, and we mentioned it yet again, that the RAV4 is noisier than it should be, especially under harder acceleration. JW, hi Zach, love the channel. There is a Ford Lightning announcement scheduled for the 26th. I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on the truck and a review. Yeah, it's actually, we have to get our hands, or we have to get in touch with Ford about that, because there's going to be an event around that, and some people are going to it, and we haven't been invited, so we'll have to ask about why. Hi, Zach. In the market for a Crosstrek, and just curious if I should get the 2022 model or wait for the 23. Thanks. I would say either one. Doesn't really matter. The car was just updated last year, maybe 18 months ago. So there's not going to be any major changes, I wouldn't think, from 22 to 23. So they just updated it in the last I think it was a 2021 refresh. 2021 got the larger 2.5 liter engine and some other features, and that was the big update. So if you can get a 2022, go for it. It's a great product. It was our #1 choice in the small SUV category, and I'm not sure if you've decided which one you want to get yet, but I would strongly suggest, if you can afford it, get the larger 2.5 liter engine. It's on the outdoor trim, and that is going to give you a more what you would expect kind of drive from it. The base 2-liter engine, in my opinion, just isn't up to the job. So great product, and I don't think there's going to be any real changes between now and next year. Have deposits on Aria delivered in 12 plus months. An Ioniq 5 delivered in 18 to 24. Need a temporary option, looking at financing a 23 Rogue or 23 RAV4, then trading it in when one of the EVs is ready. Advice on process. Okay, so 23 Rogue and RAV4 will not be available yet. I'm not sure if that new engine updated for the Rogue was a 23. I don't believe so. So it's the car that you're driving in that bad condition that you have to get a new vehicle right now? Is it really that clapped out that it's not going to make it, a year until an Aria arrives? Is it maybe worth spending a couple of $1,000s to get some things fixed on it, like maybe some new tires and brakes or something like that? Because, if you can get a RAV4 or a Rogue, go for it. But I would suggest that you be looking at 2022 models right now. All right. Jackson Barrett, do you know of any big issues with the 5th generation Ram 1500s? Currently own the 4th generation. I'm thinking upgrading to the 2022 limited trim. Okay, so look what popped up. Look, what's the chance of that a Ram pickup truck pops up? That's weird. So I'm trying to remember what year they brought the diesel back. I think it was just last year. So the 1st generation of the diesel in the Ram 1500, I would steer clear of. Then they brought it back, it was a year ago or 2 years ago. And speaking to the service advisor at the Chrysler dealer where we pick up our press cars, I always ask him about, what's coming in, what are the trends, what are you seeing? And he said that of the new eco diesel engines, they're not seeing any issues with them. So I would say, it's a wonderful product. I have no issue with it. And if you're thinking of getting the diesel, and I suspect you're not, because it's such a limited market, then make sure it's the updated engine that came out a year or so ago. Any big issues on it? Not that I know of, but that's something that you could easily find out by going to a Ram web forum, or another one is to join a Facebook group. You go on Facebook and you put in Ram 1500 and you can join a group, and there's all kinds of people on those forums. Facebook groups have now taken over where we used to have these websites, these web forums where people would go in and ask questions back and forth. Now it seems to have all migrated over to Facebook. So that's what I would do. Okay, we have our first super chat of the day. It goes to Rudy. Hi, Zach. Looking at a new 2022 compact daily driver under $25,000. Elantra, Jetta, Sentra, SV, and I'm not a fan of the new Civic or Corolla. What I would say, interestingly, in 2 weeks we're going to be driving the all new updated Jetta with the 1.5 turbo. So I would hold off until that video comes out. But of the bunch you mentioned, I'm a big fan of the Sentra. Sentra has a great starting price, available with a manual transmission if that's your thing. It has independent rear suspension. The Elantra and the Forte 5 do not. They have torsion beam rear suspension. And I just think that the Sentra might be really the one to beat. It's got a nice interior. It's not crazy expensive. For your price point there of under $25,000, you can certainly get a very nice product. So in my opinion, I would go with Sentra. Any news on the Outlander PHEV? The only news we have is that it will be coming this summer. I don't have exact timing on it, so it's within the next few months, okay? It's going to be, because here we are in, it's soon to be May, and then we'll be heading into the summer, and that's when it's supposed to come. Hands on the new WRX. I'd love to hear your opinion of an older gentleman. Wait a second. Did you just call me old? Come on. Thanks a lot. What's your choice between a base 4-cylinder C-Class versus a base 4-cylinder 3 Series? I don't think there's much in it, to be honest with you. The C-Class has... their transmission is very well done. It's very well calibrated for that engine. Both of these cars are fine. The base, interestingly enough, 3 Series is the plug-in now. The plug-in is now the cheapest 3 Series, which is quite interesting that they've done that at BMW. So the C-Class is just about to be replaced, okay? They're going to be arriving in the next few weeks at dealerships. So what I would suggest, if you're not in a rush, to wait for the new C-Class to arrive, wait for us to have a chance to drive it and review it. The 3 Series came out, when was the 3 Series updated? A couple years ago, so it's fresher, it's newer, but I would say if you can get a good deal on an existing C-Class, and there's maybe some deals out there on that, it's still a great car. The new one will be coming very shortly, so if you're not in a rush, just wait a little while longer. Zach, what do you think of the new EV rebate raising the minimum price of vehicles from 45 to 55? So I mentioned it at the beginning. This new EV rebate program is basically shifted up, so now it's capturing way more vehicles. What I believe is going to happen, so here's an analogy for you. All of these car companies had to have a vehicle start under $45,000, okay? It had to start under $45,000. So every single SUV, for example, started at $44,999 or $95 or whatever it was, just a hair under $45,000. Now they've moved that up to $55,000. Do you think those $44,995 SUVs are going to be around? Maybe for this model year, but I guarantee you the prices of electric cars is going to go up. So the rebate program is going to have, in my opinion, the opposite effect. Okay? I think it's just folly that the government has decided to make cast a wider net for EVs, which I don't think is a bad idea, but it should be trying to get people that make cars to produce them at a lower price. Now there's no incentive for a car company to bring in a less expensive EV. There's none, because they qualify for the EV rebate. I came up with my idea for this a few weeks ago and people seem to like it. I think we should have a regressive rebate. So yes, you have the $5,000 federal rebate, but in my opinion, it should be maximum at say $40,000, and then say, I said initially it was every $2,000, you lose $1,000 of the rebate that the price of the car went up. You could maybe make it every $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 even. So at $40,000 you're getting a full $5,000. Say at $45,000 it's $4,000. Maybe at $50,000 it's only $3,000. At $55,000 it's only $2,000, right? So as the price of the vehicle goes up, you lose that rebate, because I don't believe that somebody who can afford a $70,000 truck should be getting $5,000 of my tax money. But if you had the biggest rebate on the lowest price cars, now you're in a position where you're actually helping people who are in the middle of the market. So this is basically saying now with this EV rebate program that electric cars are now the plaything of the upper middle class. The average working guy that spends $30,000 to $40,000 on a car, an electric car, is now going to be out of reach because they're going to put the prices up. They don't need to have these lower price vehicles anymore. So instead of having a $40,000 car that you get $5,000 off and it's now $35,000, which is right where most people are shopping anyway, that was a good thing. Now they don't need to do that. That's all gone. And I guarantee you the prices of electric cars will go up because of this new rebate program. They're not going to bring in these cheap ones anymore. All right. Here's Bruce again. You sure mentioned a lot of how to pronounce Mazda and Z versus Z. That's just assume our American friends know what you're saying. After all, the reviewers sure don't After all, their reviewers sure don't mention it. Well, Bruce, I would love to have your enthusiasm for our American friends' knowledge of the English language outside of their borders, but it just simply is not the case. And if we do say Mazda and not Mazda, and we say Z and not Z, you should see the comments. You should read them. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's just people go off on us. I can't stand the way you say Mazda. You're saying it wrong. It's like, you can't win. So that's what we do. We say at the beginning, or here's another one. The Sportage video came out yesterday. At the very beginning, I had to say, we're in Canada. This is called a Kia Sportage. In America, it's called a Sportage. Why? I have no idea. So what you do by saying that at the very beginning is you mitigate all of the goofy comments that people will put in there. Because if we just called it a Sportage and never referenced the fact that it was also called a Sportage, then that's all the comments would be about. You're idiots. You don't know how to say it right. The other one was the Hyundai Elantra. In Canada, it's commonly referred to as a Hyundai Elantra. In the States, an Elantra. I mean, people just lose their mind when you say it not the way they do in America. And Mazda is that. Now we've got to the point with Mazda where we say we're reviewing a Mazda in Canada. It's called a Mazda in the United States, but the real name is Matsuda. And so that's what we have to do. I wish I had your enthusiasm for the, what's the word I'm trying to say? The knowledge outside of the U.S. border, but it ain't the case. Hey, Zach, when you test drove the Venza, do you remember it being significantly quieter at highway speeds versus the RAV4? I was able to do a long-term drive with the RAV4, and good Lord, it's loud inside at 110 kilometers an hour. I can't remember exactly, but I do. You know what I would do is I go back and watch the video. If it was different, I'm sure we would have mentioned it. But it's been a while since we've only driven that car when it first came out. It would actually be worth getting it back because we would like to get it and drive it again. I think the RAV4 and the Venza do have a slightly different take on the way it's done. And the Venza does have a slightly higher scale feel to it generally. But the noise level thing, I'd have to get it back to try. What I would do is go back and watch the video because I'm doing this from like almost 2 years ago memory now. Sam Davis, I think that raising the base price of EVs as we're getting a deal compared to U.S. prices. Not sure what you mean there. Hi, Zach. Thanks to Andrea and you for all the amazing reviews. Do you have any insight when the hybrid Mazdas are going to be coming, they say, by the end of the year? That'll be these CX-50. Notice any drawbacks in the torsion beam rear suspension of the CX-50? No, I don't. Listen, if you told me to drive that car and asked me what the suspension was, I couldn't tell you if it had independent or not. And I used to be a real stickler for this, and I do still prefer an independent rear suspension if I had my choice between two. Independent rear suspension, in my opinion, is better, but they're getting really good now with the torsion beam rear suspension. Do you know who also does a really good job with it is Volkswagen with the Jetta. It used to have independent rear suspension, then they went to the torsion beam, and it's actually really good. And with the Mazda products, Mazda, the CX-30, the Mazda 3, and this new CX-50, it makes the car really kind of flat at the back. So you get this sort of three-legged kind of turn like this. It's kind of interesting the way it works, but it actually keeps the back of the car rather flat in the corners, and it's very well done. I think they've done a very good job. Put it this way, go and drive one, and you see if you can tell. It used to be with a torsion beam rear suspension that you would get what was called axle hop, going over expansion joints on the highway. You drive on a concrete highway and you go over those expansion joints and you get this kind of popping up and down feeling of an old style solid rear axle, like driving in a pickup truck. But now they seem to have figured that stuff out. We do mostly city commutes and run errands. Would you recommend a PHEV such as the BMW 330e? Well, as I mentioned earlier, Chris, I think the base model of the 3 Series now is the plug-in. And you know what? If you can average down your average fuel cost, great. You have to have a place to plug it in. You don't need to have 240 volts. You can do it with a 120 volt outlet, just a regular plug, but you have to have somewhere to plug it in. And you have to plug it in all the time because the range on it really isn't that great. But it will average down your average fuel costs. It's actually a fun car to drive. It doesn't really show its hand that it's electrified. Well, it does show its hand, has some good torque, but I mean, it actually makes it a better driving experience. My issue with the BMW plugins is the range is really not very great. So if you can take advantage of plugging it in regularly every time you get home, maybe you have an opportunity to do it at work, then yeah, why not go for it? It's going to average down your average fuel cost. And because they're not charging a premium to get it, I say why not? Zach, what are your thoughts on the Camaro versus the Mustang GT reliability? I would suggest that Chevrolet as a brand has had higher quality scores than Ford lately, but Ford has improved quite a bit. And generally, the domestic manufacturers are producing some high quality cars. We just actually recorded a Chevrolet Traverse video this weekend and we also recorded a Chevy Equinox video last week. And when you start getting into researching these things, and I've talked about it many times on this live show, people always crap all over domestic cars. And I'm one of the few that raises a flag and says, no, they can make some good high quality products. And you see that reflected in the quality scores. Chevrolet indexes above the industry average when it comes to quality. So that's a good sign, right? So Chevrolet, the Equinox we had recently, above average in terms of reliability. The Chevy Traverse, above average in terms of reliability. I don't know the specifics for both the Camaro and the Mustang, but that's something you could easily look up. Personally, just a personal taste thing, I like the Mustang better just because of the size. The Camaro is quite a big car. I mean, the Mustang's not small either, but I think just dimensionally, for me, I just prefer the Mustang. And I just love the GT. And one of the reasons is the magnetic ride control. So if you're going to get a Mustang GT, I strongly encourage you to get the performance package and magnetic ride control. It just takes that car to a whole other level. And boy, what a wonderful, wonderful machine. All right, we have almost 300 people on board right now. And 85 thumbs up. If you guys could smash the thumbs up, that would be great. Only one super chat so far tonight. There you go. Julia V, any plans to review the new C300? Yes, that's all I can say. Coming soon. Do you guys generally drive harsher than their sedan counterparts? Do SUVs generally drive harsher than the sedan counterpart? For example, Mercedes S580 versus the GLS 580 or the 750 versus the X7. I wouldn't say that they do, and I'll tell you why. Because those two products you just mentioned, both are equipped with air suspension. And they calibrate the air suspension to be able to compensate for the mass. Like the GLS, we actually were driving along today by a beautiful GLS 580 with the AMG appearance packages. They just look beautiful. And you know what? The suspension and the way it's calibrated, because it's got the air suspension, really does a great job of mitigating the weight and the size. So is it harsher? It doesn't need to be, because you can turn it into its softest settings. Now, you're never going to replace a long wheelbase car. Like a long wheelbase car is always going to have the most floaty boaty kind of feel. Long wheelbase cars generally do that. So what, I don't know off the top of my head of what the difference is between, say, an S-Class and a GLS wheelbase, or a 7 Series or an X7 wheelbase. It might actually be fairly close. So that's something to look at. The longer wheelbase will always have a slightly smoother ride. Will you ever do a review on the Solterra? Keep up the good work. Yes, we've already put a request in to Subaru, and we will definitely do that. Daniel, wrist check. Any Canadian watch brands you've tried or would recommend? So I'm driving the Sea Dweller today on my new Erica's original strap. Actually, I sold a watch to a guy in Ottawa, a Tudor Pelagos, and we became sort of texting buddies. Never met him, but we were texting back and forth. And he's a Tudor watch fan like me, and he told me about Erica's Originals. Oh, actually, I have the brochure here. This is what comes. There's Erica. I think she lives in Belarus. So there's Erica, and then you order the strap, and you put it on your watch, and yeah. And she puts a nice little note on the back. Enjoy from Erica. So if you're into watches and you want to try something different for a strap for your watch, they're not cheap. These are not cheap straps. Erica's Originals. And her husband is a diver, and he wanted a something not a NATO kind of strap like, but not a NATO strap. So it's kind of hard to explain how it works, but I'm really enjoying them. And in fact, I've ordered 3 of them. So this is my latest one, the red and the black on the Sea Dweller. Real dive watch, a real divey dive watch that never goes down lower than maybe 10 feet in the deep end of a swimming pool. Any Canadian watch brands you've tried and would recommend? What's the one? What's the one from Vancouver? Nomos? Not Nomos. Helios, is that it? They're basically based here in Vancouver. Marathon is one for sure. Not sure if you've ever seen Marathon watches, but they're really cool. Chunky big dive watches. They're actually used by the Canadian military. So those are 2 I know of. What is it? Helios? Maybe it's Helios, based here in Vancouver. All right. Sam Davis said, great article in the Globe and Mail about the difficulties in Canada charging vehicles away from your home. Yeah, that was written by Mark Richardson, our buddy Mark, who lives back east. Yeah, good article. Scott Myers, thoughts on trading in a Veloster N for a GR Corolla when available in Canada? I'm a fan of the Veloster. I just don't see it as a, it's never been a big hit for Hyundai. It just, I think it's the 3 doors. Never really caught on, but sure, a lot of power and a lot of bang for the buck. If you can get a GR Corolla, there would be no. Look at that! Funny, the rally car showed up. There would be no downside to that, in my opinion, because that will be a vehicle that'll hold its value long term. Will there be a variant of the XC50 hybrid? Yes, towards the end of the year. Daniel is asking, what was your YouTube watch channel called? It's called Watch This, but I haven't posted anything in 2 years on that. Carter, hey Zach, given prices of new EVs will not become affordable anytime soon, would you recommend looking at used EVs? What are your thoughts on battery life and resale of used EVs? Well, one thing. Depends on where you live, Carter. Like, for example, in the province of British Columbia, here where I live, they've removed the provincial sales tax on used electric vehicles. So what has that done to used electric vehicle sales? It's pumped the price up because people are just making profit off the fact the tax is gone. I mean, that's the problem when governments get involved and they meddle in the marketplace. It skews the market. I mean, someone was telling me from a high-end car dealership that they have, plug-ins and electric cars when they come on sale. They get a lot of money for them because they don't have to pay sales tax on them. So back to your question, would you recommend looking at any used EVs? It depends what you're going to buy. you probably get not a bad deal on a used Nissan Leaf, right? There's a lot of them around. They've been out for a long time. Now, the long-term reliability with batteries and all that, I can't really say, but I would suspect anything that's coming off lease, for example, that's 2 or 3 years old, that's electrified, is going to be going very close to what the original MSRP is. And in some cases, maybe even more because it's available right now. So it's just a crap time to be buying anything with a plug because there's just so much competition. What do you think of the Chevy Bolts? I think the Chevy Bolt, and I've said this ever since I drove it, I think, and even with the recall and the battery fires and all that nonsense, I still think that the Chevy Bolt is the best electric car you can buy because of the price. It's $38,000 in the Canadian market. I think it's $35,000 or even less in the US. It's got over 400 kilometers of range, 250 miles. It's actually fun to drive. And you only need to buy the base model. You don't need to go and get the more expensive. It comes very nicely equipped, and it's got most of the stuff in it that you need. They've refreshed the interior. The seats are better. The dash is better. The in-dash tech was always good. It's now framed by a nicer looking interior. The outside they refreshed as well. It's got plenty of room because it's just basically a roller skate with a big box on top. And you know what? It's a fun vehicle to drive. Now, this whole battery electric fire thing that General Motors had to live through, there were only 12 of these vehicles that caught on fire. Okay, 12 of them out of how many hundreds of thousands they sold. How many Teslas have caught on fire? Way more than 12. How many Teslas have driven into fire trucks? Way more than 12. How many Teslas have been involved with fatal accidents because of self-driving? Quite a few. Okay, so, but that brand doesn't seem to get canceled the way General Motors was with the Bolt. I think the Bolt's a great product. I would buy one. I would have no problem suggesting it. In fact, I'd like to have one. It's just a fun little car to drive, and for the price, nothing can touch it. 400 plus kilometers of range, and you, like, here's a perfect example. Where I live in British Columbia, it's $8,000 off. That brings the price of that car down to 30 grand. Right? It's $13,000 off in the province of Quebec, right? Think about that. That brings the price down to $25,000 for a brand new full electric car with 400 kilometers of range. It's the best electric car deal on the road, no question about it. I see that your handle is BMTL, so I'm guessing you're in Montreal. So yeah, that car would be 25 grand. Get one. All right, I think we have another super chat. Couple of super chats. Mr. Chuckle says, Avalon hybrid or Camry hybrid? Extra money worth it? Well, you're basically running on the same essential platform. So the Avalon and the Camry run on, the Avalon is an elongated version of the Camry platform. So you're basically getting a lot of the same kind of stuff. The old Avalon, this was from like 3 or 4 years ago and before, total yawn fest. Then the last one that they brought out and is being discontinued actually is a really nice car to drive. The handling became a lot better. The interior was much improved. They certainly worked on the exterior and made it look a lot better. In fact, it ended up at the very end of its run being not a bad car at all. So hybrid Camry, hybrid Avalon, it really comes down to how big a car you need to have and do you really need to have the space. If you're in the non-hybrid camp, the Avalon was available in the last year and a half or so with all-wheel drive. Same thing with the Camry. A lot of people aren't aware that the Camry is also available with all-wheel drive. Only, though, with the 2.5-liter four-cylinder engine. The more powerful engine was not available, still only front-wheel drive. So if you don't need a big car, then get the Camry. If you like the idea of a big car and you have the money, get the Avalon. But the only thing is the Avalon will be orphaned, right? It's going to be discontinued, no longer sold. So is it going to be saleable in the future like a Camry? Maybe not as much. So the Camry might be a better long-term proposition. Raul's saying, is the 1.5 Nissan 3-cylinder louder than the 4 it replaced? Have you heard anything on reliability since your review? We have not heard anything on reliability since our review. In fact, we enjoy driving the 1.5 liter 3-cylinder way more than the 2.5. And in fact, if you go and you watch the video again, you'll see an acceleration shot away with the 1.5 turbo, and then an acceleration shot away with the 2.5. The 2.5 is noisier, in my opinion, and I think that new 1.5, they did an incredible job of integrating it into that product. Now, it's a 3-cylinder turbo, okay, and that's asking a lot. Then you add in the complexity of it being a variable compression engine. So that's something to consider. So what you need to do is look over at the existing turbo variable compression engines in the marketplace. So what you could look up is the QX50 reliability, and that's been up for four years or so now, and see what the reliability is of that power plant, because it's the same technology. Turbo 4 variable compression, this one's a Turbo 3 variable compression. So I thought that it was a big improvement when it came to drivability. Certainly has more torque. Now, if you're worried about it being a brand new engine and you're not sure you're willing to take that chance, the good news is in the Canadian market, they still offer the 2.5 on the base model only. Okay, so that's what you could do. You could just stick with that one if that's something you're worried about. But then you're not going to get anything in it. It's going to have nothing in it. Hello, Zach. What are your thoughts on the Kia Hyundai 8-speed wet dual-clutch transmission? I heard good and bad things about them. So what's interesting is, Bobby Bean, that we just had this Kia Sportage or Sportage with the 8-speed automatic transmission, but that was not the wet dual-clutch. And in this execution, it was great. The wet dual-clutch is in the larger turbocharged power plant, in the Sorento, the Santa Fe, and so on. In our experience driving the dual clutch, we thought it was really quite a lot of fun and made the drive, especially with the larger 2.5 liter engine, really quite engaging. It was good. Now, the issue is a lot of people will complain about a dual clutch because it does have a different characteristic. On and off the throttle at stop and go speeds, like bumper to bumper traffic, it can be kind of a little lurchy, because you have to understand what it actually is. Once you get your head around what the car is actually doing, you say to yourself, actually, that's not bad. I can get my head around it. I kind of like it. It's a manual transmission, automatically controlled. That's what a dual clutch transmission is. A manual transmission, automatically controlled. And because it's a manual transmission, you have to basically feather on and off the clutch at low speed on and off. If you've ever driven a manual transmission, you let the clutch out, you kind of feather it in, you roll forward, and then you put the clutch in again and you stop. Then you do that in stop and go traffic. You do that many, many times. Well, with these dual clutches, it's doing it all automatically. But that on and off clutch feel can be a little jerkier than what you're expecting from a traditional 8-speed automatic transmission. But once you realize that's what it is and that's what it's doing, it doesn't become a big deal. It's for people who have never experienced a dual clutch and they drive it and they go, what the hell is this? It's jerky at on and off speeds. It's something wrong with it. I don't like it. No, it's a manual transmission, automatically controlled. So that's what you have to realize when you go to drive it. So go drive one again and keep that in mind and see if that helps. Hello, Zach. My question: can you talk about your your personal Toyota Celica? My favorite year and model was 1998. Greetings from Lima, Peru. So there's another perfect example of car pronunciations. In Canada, it's a Toyota Celica. In the United States, it's a Toyota Celica. But boy, if you call it a Celica, the American, they'll just pound on the keyboard and let you have it. So whenever you do, I did a vintage one years ago, a vintage one months ago of one from 1985. And I have to say Celica or Celica and Celica, because people just lose their minds about it. So my dad bought a 1985 Toyota Celica GT notchback. It was like the windscreen, the roof, then the notchback. It had a very square, flat rear deck on it. And he had that car for, I would say 4 or 5 years, and then he sold it to me. And then I drove it from back east all the way here to Vancouver when I moved here in the early 90s. And I kept that car for a while, and then I traded it in, and I got a Volkswagen GTI. I always wanted a GTI. So, yeah, it was solid. The interesting thing was it got to a certain mileage, and things started to go on it, and what I didn't realize, because everybody says, oh, Toyotas are so great, they're bulletproof. The parts on it were expensive. Like if you ordered Toyota parts, I remember back then getting some parts for it. I was like, why are these parts so bloody expensive? But yeah, it was a great car. I drove from Toronto to Vancouver in 3 days by myself. The first day I drove 12 hours. The second day I drove 12 hours. Sorry, the first day I drove 13 hours, second day I drove 12 hours, and the third day I drove 21 hours straight. Stupid, right? But I made it here. Hi, Zach. Do you think any kind of coating is necessary, like wax spray or ceramic, for a new car? I thought it was for high-end cars. What are your thoughts on coatings? All right. Well, I'm going to give you a little story about what happened today. So, we live in an old part of Vancouver, right near downtown, and the house I'm sitting in here is 100 years old this year. It was built in 1922. So we have these big maple trees and lots of cherry blossoms as well. and the trees drop crap all over the car, and the birds drop crap all over the car. So Andrew and I were out doing some shooting today. I came home and I saw our Honda Civic with bird crap all over it. So I took it in the back lane and I washed it. And I cleaned it all with, soap and the whole thing. And then our car, our Porsche Cayenne that has ceramic coating on it, I brought it in the back, and with the power washer, I just basically rinsed it off. And then all of the dirt came off the car because it's got the ceramic coating, including the bird crap. So I did go over where the bird crap was with a little soft cloth and some soap. But other than that, I just rinsed the car off. What I'll say about ceramic coating, in my experience, because we've had it now for a couple of years, if you live somewhere where the car is out in the elements, under trees, getting attacked by birds, it's an extra layer of protection. And what I've found is that when you do get contaminants on the paint, you can wash it and clean it, and it comes back like that. No problem at all. Our Civic, on the other hand, has no paint protection on it at all. I've just waxed the car and that's it. And it takes a lot more work to get it clean, all right? So at the bare minimum, please wax your car. So that car's being waxed. But if you can afford it, the coatings, the ceramic coating actually does work. It's expensive. I get that. So if it's not really in your wheelhouse to spend that kind of money, doing the old elbow grease, just getting out and cleaning your car on a regular basis with a high quality car wash. That's a big one. And also with a good quality wax. I'm just looking over on my desk over there. I have some detail spray that I got that has this amazing coating, but I'm not sure if it's for sale, if it's just for detailers. But anyway, yeah, good wax and cleaning the car regularly will keep it looking good. All right, I think we have another super chat here. Here's Norbert. Just saying hello, or however you want to pronounce it. Halo or hello. Thank you, Norbert. Appreciate that. And very funny. Very funny. All right, where are we with the time here? Okay, we've got some time left. So sorry about last weekend. I forgot it was Easter, and then Andrea said it's Easter, And my mother-in-law is coming, so we didn't get to do the live show last week. But I did get lots of good baking from my mother-in-law. Boy, she knows how to bake. All right, where was I here? David, any Blackwing for you to review? No, unfortunately. I think that every Blackwing has been sold. Hi, Zach. Thanks for doing this. 2022 RAV4 Hybrid has horrible road noise. Please advise which other vehicles should I consider. Thanks. You could get the Ford Escape Hybrid. I'm a big fan of the Ford Escape. I think they did a really good job with that. You can get a Tucson. You can get the new Sportage or Sportage hybrid. They're maybe going to feel a little bit better. I think that the RAV4 hybrid is better than the gas, and it depends what kind of driving you're doing. But to your point, I kind of agree. It's one area that where we'd hoped they did a facelift. So there it is with the new headlamps on it, but they didn't do anything to upgrade the rest of the car. They didn't do anything to the interior, didn't do anything for sound insulation, they didn't do anything. They just changed the headlamps and gave us some new wheels and a new paint color. That's really what they offered, which is a shame. So those would be the ones I would consider. Hey Zach, I'm thinking of buying a hatch. We need a quiet cabin, good stereo system, and good on maintenance costs. Which one should I consider? Hatchback. I would say probably a Civic hatchback. Nice big car, fairly good stereo, not bad in the noise department. That would be one I would consider for sure. There's not that many hatches around anymore. Hey, if you can afford a GTI at $31,500, that's the one I'd buy. Here's Paul saying batteries are too expensive. They should be a rebate on replacement. These cars are disposable as a battery can cost $30,000. Well, that's easy to say that. And these are these sorts of things that just go round and round the internet. Everybody just keeps repeating the same thing. Batteries, we haven't seen big numbers of battery failures from electric cars, and we've had plenty of electric cars on the road for years. Prius batteries, those are known to run over 1 million miles on the same battery. So I don't totally agree with that. For example, Toyota, when we went to the launch program of the BZ4X, also known as the BZ4X, see the nightmare we're in? They claim with their technology that they're going to be able to maintain 90% of the vehicle's battery capacity after 10 years. Now, that's a long time for a car to be on the road. 10 years. For them to only lose 10% of the battery's capacity, that's a major accomplishment. So I'm not totally buying into that. Hugo, hi Zach, I have an 18 Merc 300. I love it. Any plans to review the new C300? Yes, we do. Stay tuned. Hey, Zach and Andrea, I'm from Brazil. Love your content. I have the feeling that sometimes buying a used car is more expensive than if you bought it new. Does it really happen? If yes, why? Well, here's the problem we have right now, is that there's a shortage of new cars. You've known this. You can go by any of the big dealers' lots, and the dealership lot is empty. So what's happened is a used car shows up on the lot. Well, it's there and now. Like it's sitting there, and somebody can come in and buy it today. So what do the dealers do? They jack the price up. You go in there and you say, I'd like to get, we'll pick a RAV4. I'd like to get a 2022 RAV4, please. Well, we'll put you down on the Never Never plan. It's going to be coming 6 months for the hybrid. But hey, we've got a 2020 hybrid sitting right here. How much is it? It's basically the same price as the new one, but it's right here today. You can drive it now. Do you want it? And some people foolishly are taking that offer. I wouldn't. I'd say pound sand. I'll order the new one and I'll take, fix up the car I've got. The other thing that drives me crazy about this is how bad is your car? How bad is your car that you have to buy a car right now? Hey, you could have one that was totaled in an accident. Hey, you might be getting divorced and you got to sell everything and split all the assets. I get it. These sorts of things do happen. But for most people, the car you're driving should continue to drive for another 6-8 months a year. So my advice always on these things is maybe it's worth spending a little bit of money. Maybe you need new tires on your car. Maybe get new tires on your car. Maybe you need new brakes. Get new brakes. It's cheaper than overspending on a car that's sitting right here and now. And then order, not saying it has to be a RAV4, but order the car that you want. And when it comes in, then you're going to get good money for your used car because used car prices are insane. So the good news is you're only paying for the difference between what your used car is worth and what the new car is being sold for. So the good thing is used car prices are high, and depending on where you live here in Canada, you're not really supposed to sell the car over MSRP. In the States that does happen, but we're not seeing it too much in Canada, and you're only paying for the difference. So that's what's happening with used car prices. It's crazy out there. I'm hoping to reserve a 2023 Kia Niro now that they improved the aesthetics. Any thoughts on the changes to the car in general? Yes, I think the car looks pretty slick and cool. Kia is relentlessly changing their model lineup to bring all kinds of new things to it. I haven't seen the car in person. I'm only seen it in pictures, so I can't wait to see it, touch it, drive it. But I would agree with you. I mean, the vehicle as it sits right now has been out for many years. So if you can put your name on a list to get a new one, I think that would be a smart thing to do. And as I just mentioned, hopefully your car is capable to get you through the 6-8 months or whatever it takes to get that new vehicle. But on first impressions, I think, Kia is absolutely smashing it right now. Hyundai absolutely smashing it. They have amazing designs, wonderful interiors, great technology, and they're just coming out with more and more and more and more stuff. And that Niro is going to be available as a hybrid, plug-in, full electric, and that's what people are looking for right now because of fuel prices being so high. So I think, yeah, not a bad way to go. Do you know the pricing will be released for the Solterra? Just wondering, since the BZ4X pricing has been released. Thank you. I believe that the Solterra price in the US has been announced off the top of my head. Emailing Subaru Canada, they said more towards summer. Okay, so that's all they said, generally summertime. I don't think it's going to be too crazy different from the Toyota product. So look at the Toyota as a guide. Packaging is going to be different. They might package their vehicles totally differently with different content in them at different prices. That's going to be the difference. But I think US pricing has been announced, Canadian pricing not yet. So there you go. Okay, I am all out of time. I want to thank everybody for taking part. Hopefully if I didn't get your question answered, that I do read them all. So please know that. And thanks to everybody who checked in. If we can, we got to do this. It's 355 people on board and 159 thumbs up. If we can get that over 200 thumbs up in the next minute or so, we got 355 people on board. Let's get it up to 200 thumbs up. It's at 159 right now. Before I go, I want to let you know that the RAV4 Sportage, so these two products are going to be in our comparison on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, it's going to be the Accord Hybrid. And the angle I kind of took on that one was, look where people aren't shopping. People aren't buying mid-sized cars, and everybody wants an SUV. You might be able to get a Toyota RAV4 with a hybrid system and save some money on fuel, and a great handling car as well. Okay, we're at 184. We don't have far to go. Oh, there we go. We're over 200. Look at you guys. Amazing. Awesome. And thank you very much. And then at the end of the week, it's going to be the BMW i4. So really looking forward to driving that. Okay. Thank you to everybody for being on board today. We will be back next Sunday, and we'll chat again then. And if you want to get a picture in for the show, you can send it to Zack@motormouth.ca. That's ZACK@motormouth.ca or ZACK@motormouth.ca for American friends. That's all the time we have. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. We'll chat next week. Bye now.